There's the first fish. It is an Alabama bass, and he got that buzzbait pretty good. Alabama bass. He's 14 or 15 inches. Really long, long dude. Thanks, buddy. Did you see that? I had a leaf. It's still on my buzzbait, so I was burning it in, and that fish, the standard retrieve was not fast enough. I'm using a 1/4 ounce buzzbait, and apparently it is not moving fast enough for that, or for that individual fish anyway. That was really, that's, again, you always hear people talk about listening to the fish or giving the fish what they want. That individual fish, at least, that tells me I am not reeling that bait fast enough. So if I had a heavier one, I would probably, you know, go to a 3/8 or even a 1/2. Not sure I would increase the blade size, but just to get a faster retrieve. You could also add a sinker, like a, I think they're called bank sinkers, or catfish sinkers with that crimp. You could crimp a sinker to the shank of your buzzbait if you don't want to change lures or have another lure. You can always crimp one of those sinkers to the rubber core sinker. That's what I was trying to think of, rubber core sinker. You could crimp that to the shank of your hook. You could also do that with a spinnerbait. It's not ideal, but if you don't have another lure, there's a bite. Wow, on the wacky rig. A pretty good fish. Come out of there. Oh, he's hung on a piece of wood. I'm gonna lose that fish if I don't get up there. He's pinned to that piece of wood. It's about a 2-pound fish, maybe not that big. I can see him right there. Not sure if he's wrapped or what. Is this, okay, what's going on here? Is he gone? No, he's still hooked. He's wrapped now. What's going on, buddy? He's just slightly larger than the last fish. I can't tell. Okay, we got him now. Not much bigger than the last one. Another textbook Alabama bass there. On the Green Pumpkin Wacky Rig Senko. That's a 4-inch Senko, by the way. And these are native because we're in the Mobile Basin. But this time we're in the Tallapoosa River drainage, and we're targeting Tallapoosa bass. There are 3 native species of black bass in the Tallapoosa River drainage. This is one of them, the Alabama bass. You also have the Tallapoosa bass, that's the native upland species, and you also have the largemouth. Those are your 3 black bass. The reason I'm fishing the buzzbait this time around is if you watched the red-eye bass part 1 and part 2 videos, in part 1, right at the beginning of part 1, I missed a fish on the skitter prop as I was reeling that bait. I actually was working the bait below a shoal, and as it got back close to the kayak, I started to reel the bait, and I missed it appeared to be a red-eye bass. But what caught my attention, or the main takeaway there, is that the fish did not react to the lure until I started to reel it. And I didn't really catch on to that at first, because it was one of the first bites I had that day, and it was early in the morning, and it was not a big fish. I mean, let's be honest, red-eye bass, they're not real, they're not. Anyway, moral of that story, or the main takeaway, was that the fish hit the lure as I was reeling it, and I didn't really catch that until I went back and was editing that video. And of course, when you're editing, you review clips several times or more than once, and I caught that. But I also, in part 2, I think it was, I had an Alabama bass do the same thing. It was like a 14 or 15 inch fish, maybe 16 inches, I can't remember. But in part 2, red-eye bass part 2, I saw some shiners. I saw some bass bust some shiners on the bank, and I threw my skitter prop over there and did not get any kind of reaction or strike until I started to reel the lure in to make another cast. I was actually reeling the skitter prop like a whopper plopper almost. And that's when the fish ran it down and ate it. And it was at that point I realized I should probably be using a buzzbait. So, or a whopper plopper. But long story short, I historically do throw a buzzbait in the fall, especially October. It's a great time to throw a buzzbait, even if you're not on a river or creek. If you're fishing flat water lakes, ponds, buzzbait's an awesome choice in the fall. The fish, as the water cools, they'll run down not only a buzzbait, whopper plopper, buzz toad, buzz frog, lots of speed worms, stuff like that. It's a great time to cast and retrieve a lure, basically, just like it is in the spring. The reason I've been throwing that skitter prop is because I thought it would make for better video, that start and stop action. That was my thought process. So I've been using the skitter prop a lot more than I usually do. Plus, it's a smaller lure. You get a lot of bites. Get a lot of bites on a buzzbait too, but you also, I don't know, because I'm making such long casts a lot of times with the buzzbait, you can't see the strike real good. The fish are, So with that skitter prop, I just was mainly using it because I think it makes more interesting or exciting video. But I do like a buzzbait. I use the skitter prop for the same reason, basically. It's a search bait. Or I use it as a search bait. And then, of course, if I miss a fish, you've seen me throw back into those areas with soft plastics, shaky head, Texas rig, wacky rig. You could even use a Ned rig for that. I prefer the more weedless Texas rig and the shaky head, but you know, some people may prefer a Ned rig, that's fine. I will use a Ned rig when I'm fishing flat water, like a pond or a man-made pond or a lake where you don't have current and you have a hard bottom. That's when I typically use a Ned rig. But in current where it's just going to tumble, you might as well be using something that's weedless, in my opinion. Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. That looked like a big largemouth. And if it wasn't a largemouth, I don't even want to think about. Yep. Well, that was the big largemouth. I had it for a while, folks. I had it for a while. There's a red breast. The old red breast sunfish. Wow. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Wow. Boy, we have got to get out of Bartram's mode, people. I'm blowing it big time. Ooh, did you see that, folks? He came up and ate it, but it did not look like a Tallapoosa bass. Oh, he's got it now. Nope, another Alabama bass. No, that's a largemouth. I'll take that back. That's a largemouth. That is a little largemouth. He is in fine shape. Check out that chunkster. He's a pretty chunky dude. Bit the old wacky rig. See ya. Now that, I'm pretty sure was a Tallapoosa bass. He showed himself, but I have no idea where he came from. It did not look like an especially large one. Boy, something just tried to eat it. Oh, that was him. That was him. He came back for it. You shouldn't have done that. You should not have done that, buddy. That is the target species. I say that, it kind of looks like a hybrid. I'm pretty sure this is a natural hybrid. I'm not going to put this guy on the board. What do you think, Matt Lewis? I'm going to go hybrid. That appears to be a Tallapoosa Bama hybrid. Now the Georgia DNR, they would probably accept that fish. That they want people to complete the Georgia Bass Slam. So I mean, I don't think they would turn that fish down once they, once they find out what drainage it came from. And it did have some coloration on the caudal fin, on the margins of the caudal fin. But I would really like to catch one that is more obviously a Tallapoosa bass. And I think the people that watch my channel would rather see a real Tallapoosa bass, not some hybrid. Now, even though the Tallapoosa bass and the Alabama bass are native to this drainage, you do find some natural hybridization. It's not out of control like it is when you stock non-native species, but it does happen, especially streams like this where you don't have a lot of natural barriers like big drops, big shoals, big waterfalls. You know, we don't have that on this on the Tallapoosa, at least the section that's in Georgia. It's pretty flat. There is one dam, but it's man-made, obviously, but that is a barrier. But I've found natural hybrids above and below that dam.